Would you like to know where to hit your Bajada to be the most effective in your game? And actually, you can hit winning Bajadas without having to hit at 100 miles an hour just by having really good placement. So that's what we're going to focus on in this video. To be an effective paddle player, you need to weigh up the risk versus reward that you get from each shot. For example, you might be able to hit an incredible winning drop shot out the door, but it happens 1 out of every 25 times that you try it. Therefore, there's a really high risk for that same reward, because the reward of an amazing paddle shot is just to win the point. So the reason I'm saying this is now when we come back to hitting the Bajada, you want to have an effective Bajada that is not taking a huge risk, but that can also allow you to win the point. So we're going to go back and check out which are high risk and which are going to create an easy reward. So before we go into the exact location of where you need to be hitting, we're going to briefly talk about the technique, and a lot of that is getting into position, because if you get into a good position, all of the options of direction that we're going to talk about are possible. But if you don't get into a good position, for example, if you run in the line with the ball and it ends up close to your body, or what we see a lot where the contact is behind you, then you can't effectively have all of those options. And a key part of keeping your opponents on guard and not knowing where you're going is to get into a position where you could hit all of them. So the first thing to do is make sure you get back really fast, you get back to the side of the ball so you've got lots of space, get behind the contact, and from here, you now have the option of hitting in any of those directions that we're just about to talk about. Before we talk about direction, could you just take a quick second to subscribe to this channel if you found it's useful to you and your paddle game. Now, we're going to approach these Bajadas as a right-hander. So if you've come back and you've been lobbed, you will have your open side and you will have your closed side. So for example, on the right-hand side, if I am to play the ball cross-court to the angle fence, that is actually on my closed side. I have to really rotate to get to that position. And if I'm going to play the ball down the line, that is to my open side. And if I'm on the left-hand side, I've got a big open side space because I can hit cross-court on my open side, and my down the line is actually the closed side. So anytime you're going to play across your body, we're referring to that as the closed side. And anytime you're going to play to this side in front of your body, this would be the open side, just so you understand that reference as we go back. So as we go back and we've been lobbed, if we're on the left-hand side, our open side is that cross-court angle and our closed side is down the line. For both sides, the least risky Bajada you can hit is the one that goes down the middle. And the reason for that is there's a much higher margin of error. Yeah, if you were missing that, you might miss it long or you might miss it in the net, but you're not going to miss it because of the side fence or the side glass. So here, for example, if I come to this side and I hit on my open side, I've got the risk I might hit the fence. So for the left and the right court, your least risky option, your number one option, would be down the middle of the court. My number two option would be to play to the open side. So if I'm on the right hand side, I'm going to play this to the open side down the line. Yeah, so I'm going to hit down that line. And if I'm on the left hand side, my number two option would be to play to the open side on the cross court. This is just easier to hit into this space. Yeah, from a physical point of view and body position point of view, you need to have the ball in front of you for either of them, but from here, you can probably be more accurate. Now, when you play to this open side or you play away from the center, you need to take some speed off the ball because there is a more element of risk than going down the middle, but it's less risky than playing on your closed side. And so when we talk about the closed side, this is when you would run back and you're actually going to play that ball cross court to the angle. Now, I'm not saying that you should never use this shot. I'm just saying that that carries more risk than the other two options. And sometimes you may need to use that. If you hit a lot of balls down the middle and that right player is coming across and covering the middle and there is a big glaring gap there, then you could play to that. Or if, for example, that player is a little bit slower up to net and the other player is really close on the net, you might play that shot more. But it does carry that risk, and you do need to take the speed off it if you are going to play to the close side. And it's the same on the left side if you're playing down the line. If you want to do that, you can absolutely do that, but you just need to be understanding that it carries a little bit more risk. The option we haven't talked about is hitting a lob. Now, this is something that I feel quite strongly about. If you've been lobbed, you need to get fast behind that ball so you can get in a position. So if you choose the lob, it is because it is your choice. You're in a good position to play an aggressive one, but you choose to lob. Maybe they're too close, or maybe you want to challenge them by hitting an overhead, whatever the reason might be within your game situation, but you are choosing to play that. If you were hitting a lob because you've not got back fast enough and it's behind you and you end up scooping, then for me, that's not a good enough reason to use the lob. You've got to practice getting back fast and getting so that contact is in front of you, and then you can choose that lob. So that is also a good option because it carries less risk. A bit like hitting down the middle, it carries less risk because you've got a nice big space to aim into. At higher levels, when it comes to the Bajada, a big consideration now is the communication from your partner. And either this is telling you that both players are up or very close, if they're very close to the net, in which case the lob is your best option. Or if one is back, they're telling you which player is back, because that will reduce the risk. So for example, if I've been lobbed and I'm on the left side and they tell me that the down the line person to me, so the player on the right hand side, has actually stayed back, it now is less risky for me to play to that close side because I have a much bigger target area, and therefore I would choose that shot. So all of those previous discussions around risk and reward are assuming that both players have come to net. But if my partner has communicated that one of them is back, I would almost always play to that player at the back and then recover my net position. Another area that carries risk is the technique on your overhead, and you can hit it like a vibra, like you would see Paquito Navarro, for example, or you can hit it like a bandeja, like Bella, for example. And I'm going to put a video of the comparison of those two techniques off the Bajada down here, and up here I'm going to put a video around communication and how you can improve that in your game, because as you go up the levels, that is absolutely key.